In this episode of Photographing Denmark, we will visit a few different iconic locations known for their changing character. This place is just amazing. You wouldn't think that a place like this existed in Denmark. The sky just goes kaboom! So it's early in the morning, and I've come out here to probably one of the most famous places in all of Skagen, which is the sand-covered church, sand-buried church, in Danish, Den Tilsandede Kirke. And yeah, it is just about to burn. Like I have really tried to think that this morning would be the morning where something would happen, and there is a little bit of color in the sky. So as you can see up here and over there, a little bit of color. So I will get to it with the photographing, try to find myself some kind of composition in this grassy dune area. Just as I stop recording that one, the sky just goes kaboom! And it lights up exactly as I hoped for. I don't know how much longer this will happen here, but you can see up here, it is just lighting up right now. So yeah, I will get to it and focus on the photography. The sand-covered church is, as mentioned, one of the most iconic buildings in Skagen. It was probably built in the 14th century, later expanded, and the tower was probably added around 1500. When the sand drift started in the 16th century, it became harder and harder for the congregation to dig their way through to the church to attend service. In 1795, the church was closed and taken down, but the tower remained as a mark for sailors. These days there is a lot of plantation around the church to secure the sand. A fun observation I did when I released these photos some months ago was the many comments about how it looks like a church from Minecraft, and other comments joked about how it made sense that the Lego brick was invented in Denmark. I found the jokes funny, but I found it even more interesting that I as a Dane did not make that association. That is probably because church towers with this kind of architecture is a very common sight in small towns around Denmark. So that burn just disappeared as fast as it came. It lasted for like 2 minutes and that was it. And I would say that the first shot I got with the burn was taken from a little bit of an awkward position. I'm not too happy about the foreground. I got a shot of the church with a burn, so yeah, that's good. But by now I have moved somewhat further back and into the grassy dune area, and I'm simply just using the small trails and the shape of the hills here in the foreground to create my composition. Sadly, the conditions are not too interesting in the sky right now as they were just before when it lit up, but from this angle I wouldn't have got the very red colors anyway, so it's a little bit whatever. This will probably just be like some moody stuff unless I somehow figure out a way to merge the photos. You never know. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Settings wise, super simple. Aperture priority, ISO 100, f16 to get everything in focus, and I am on 0.8 seconds right now, and just making sure that I'm not overexposing the sky. If you want to learn more about composition in landscape photography, be sure to get my 2 ebooks on that subject. There are links to both of them in the description. If you follow the main road through Skagen past the grey lighthouse, you will have driven as far north as it is possible in Denmark. If you follow the trails from the parking lot further north, you will pass an area with bunkers from the Second World War, and by following the beach you will eventually end up at what is known as the northernmost point of Denmark, Grenen. I said known as the northernmost point. The northernmost point is actually about 2.5 kilometers further west. Grenen, however, is the famous location, as this is where the two seas Skagerrak and Kattegat meet, and on windy days like this one, you can really see how the waves from the two seas crash into each other. The shape of Grenen changes a lot over the seasons, and it is an obvious place to see how the sea influenced the coastline of Denmark. Especially the entire western coastland of Jutland is under constant pressure, and many places we've seen quite damaging erosions the past years. So all the way out here at Grenen, it is next to nearly impossible to photograph the phenomenon of the two seas meeting from the ground. It is blatantly obvious to both film and photograph it from the air, but this is a noise sensitive area, which is quite ironic considering how much noise the ocean and the wind makes. But yeah, I can't fly the drone even though it is blatantly obvious. Back at the parking lot, I can highly recommend to visit Grenen Art Museum, which is located in the bottom part of the big building. At a small fee, you can get a look at the exhibition containing a lot of modern Danish painters. I was surprised to see paintings by Esben Hanefeldt Christensen, who's one of my favorite modern Danish painters. Yes, I know, I have quite a wide taste in art. The art museum was founded by the late Danish painter Axel Lind, who is famous for his absolutely spectacular paintings of waves. I was actually lucky enough to meet him many years ago as my parents visited the museum and he gave them a look into his atelier. Definitely visit this small exhibition if you ever make it to Skagen. For sunset we made it out to Råbjerg Mile. Råbjerg Mile is a so-called drifting dune or migrating dune located south of Skagen. It has a height of about 20 meters, bringing its highest point about 40 meters above sea level. It covers an area of about 1 square kilometer and contains about 3.5 million cubic meters of sand. Råbjerg Mile moves about 15 meters a year from west to east and covers whatever is in its path for about 40 years. Råbjerg Mile has been protected since 1921 as a natural landmark. This also means that drone flying above the dune sadly is a no-no, and why I had to find a zone from where I could film the dune from the air. So we are out here actually only in the edge of Råbjerg Mile, and it is just absolutely fabulous, fantastic conditions. The sun is on its way down, we have plenty of interest in the sky, we have sand blowing around, just looks phenomenal. And right here, right now, I am photographing Sophie, and I found this beautiful pattern through the dune where it is shifting between wet sand and dry sand. So it is like new, smaller dunes that is being made. And I'm just having Sophie walk through it. So when I make these kind of big abstract photos, I usually prefer to have some kind of subject in there so you can see what it actually is. So it kind of indicates that I'm photographing something big and abstract and aesthetic, but you still have a sense that it is a grand landscape. It's not an anonymous landscape. It is fairly easy to see what it is, and it just looks absolutely fantastic up here. Settings wise, I am in aperture priority and shifting between f11, f16, maybe all the way down to f7, and I'm just hammering off. The sun is coming out from time to time, lighting up the landscape, and other times it's a little bit more dull landscape. I'm not sure what I prefer. ISO 100, and yeah, that's about it. I'm on 300mm with my long lens, and yeah, this is just looks absolutely fantastic. On clear days and days without a lot of wind, Råbjerg Mile is a touristy area. Luckily, the best photography at a location like this happens during high winds, cloudy days, and around sunrise and sunset, where most people do not bother to go. On top of that, if you can go here outside of tourist season, it ought to be fairly easy to find areas without footprints. Some of you may wonder in regard to the safety of your gear, and I didn't think it was too bad on this evening despite the incredible winds. Most of the drifting sand was just above the surface, and by being careful it was even possible to change lenses, although the sensor did need a clean for dust the following day. So as you can see, I put on the other glasses. The sun is coming down, so it is not so bright anymore, and there's obviously quite a lot of sand, so we have taken some protective glasses on, so it's a little bit easier to work. And right now, yet again, it's just absolutely epic here. So sun streaks, epic clouds lit from behind, a simple dune foreground here, and Sophie standing up there posing right in the middle of the frame. And yeah, what's to ask for? I had put on my 20mm. It fitted quite well with that focal length. I will also try to shoot a little bit wider in just a moment. At the moment I'm shooting at f11, so I am going to focus stack the dune all the way down to the camera. I'm not sure whether I need 2 or 3 or 4 focus stacks, but I'm just taking as many as I think I will need. But yeah, these conditions are just boom, epic. you want to know how I edit my photos, you can sign up for my post-processing course, Photoshop for Landscape Photographers. Here I show you not just how to make your photos pop, but also how to make that soft and ethereal effect that I apply to many of my photos. There is a discount code in the description. The light and clouds kept changing and the sunset happened quite fast, so I didn't really get any other photos this evening, but I'm also quite happy with the two I got, and it was such a thrilling experience photographing in this, for me, uncommon terrain and fantastic conditions. The sand-covered church, Grenen and Råbjerg Mile are obvious examples of the ever-changing landscape beneath our feet. Some changes are man-made while others aren't. Some changes are bad while others are good. Some changes will have immediate consequences while we won't experience the consequences of others before decades down the road. The average height above sea level of Denmark is only 31 meters. 31 meters may sound acceptable, however large parts of Denmark is much lower, and with rising sea levels and more erratic weather, large parts of Denmark are highly vulnerable to climate change. Whether we want it or not, we are part of a huge, complex and ever-changing eco and geological system. If we want to keep the Earth as a hospitable environment without erratic changes, we will have to preserve and take care of the parts we can. There are many other presenters out there doing a much better job than me talking about this, so I'll definitely highly recommend that you see the new movie, A Life on Our Planet by David Attenborough. If you haven't seen the first episode of this series yet, be sure to do that. Also a huge thank you to all of the comments on the first episode. I am very happy you all enjoyed it so much and are excited for the rest of this series. Check out the links in the description for my ebooks on composition and how to enroll in my huge 17 hours post-processing course. In the next episode we will move out of Skagen and explore different locations in northern Jutland for some simple yet dramatic and impactful photography.